Solving linear equalities follows the exact same steps as solving linear equalities, though there is one extra rule that you must be aware of, and that is if you multiply or divide by a negative number, the inequality sign has to change direction. So if it's going this way, you're going to have to flip it to the other way, or if it's like that, still have that. So be aware of this rule. You must follow it. When you're graphing a linear inequality, you also have to pay attention to the inequality sign. If you have a less than or a greater than sign, you're going to need to use a parentheses or an open circle, depending on what's asked of you. If you have one that has a less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, you need to use brackets or a closed circle, again, depending on what's asked of you. When you're expressing your answer in interval notation, you will use these steps. Endpoints used in the interval notation are always written from left to right or smallest to largest. A parenthesis is used when an endpoint is excluded or when you're using less than or greater than. A bracket is used when an endpoint is included or when less than or equal to or greater than or equal to are used. However, regardless of what's used, if you have a negative infinity or a positive infinity, you must always use a parentheses. There will never be an exception to this, ever. So, with all those rules known, let's go down and start with the first one. Solve each inequality and graph the answer and express it in interval notation. So, x plus 3 is greater than 6. So what we're going to do is just solve it like we normally do. We're going to subtract 3 from both sides. We're going to cancel out. And we're going to get x is greater than 3. So this is our answer in inequality notation. But we also need to graph it. And graphing is pretty easy. All you need to do is just draw a line. And we're going to put a line, well, give me a little more space. So we're going to put a line right here, and we're going to put 3 right in the middle. And since this is a greater than sign, and greater than is essentially like an arrow, we're going to go from 3 to the right. And since it is not equal to, we're going to use an open circle going to the right. Or if you want to use a parentheses, you could say parentheses going to the right. So either one will give you the exact same answer, but some prefer an open circle, others prefer a parentheses. It all depends on what's asked, but they are both telling you the exact same thing. Interval notation just tells us what numbers are the correct answers. So we know this is 3 going to the right forever, and forever is infinity. And since this is not an equal to sign here, we're going to use a parentheses, and infinity always has a parentheses. So here it is in inequality notation, here it is graphically, and here it is in interval notation. Next we have negative 12 is less than or equal to negative 7x plus 9. So again, all my x's are to one side, so I'm going to move all my numbers to the other by subtracting 9 over. So negative 12 minus 9 is going to give me negative 21, less than or equal to negative 7x. Now I'm going to divide the negative 7 over to get x by itself. And when I do that, I'm going to get 3, and because I divided by a negative, is greater than or equal to x. Now this can be a little bit difficult to read, so I wholeheartedly recommend always writing it like I did for this one here, with the x first and then the inequality sign. So I'm going to have x, and this inequality sign is pointing to x, so I'm going to make sure it stays pointing towards x. So x has to be less than or equal to 3. So this is the answer in inequality notation. But let's graph it. So again, I'm going to put a line here and put a 3. And since this is less than or equal to, has this arrow that's pointing to the left, I'm going to make sure that mine is going to the left. So, because it's equal to, filled in, going left. Or bracket, going left. Either way, same answer. Now it's going to the left forever, which means the number that's all the way to the left is negative infinity, and it goes up to 3. Infinity always has a parentheses, but this time we have a bracket for 3, so we're going to put a bracket around 3. And that's what this answer is in interval notation. Last, 3q minus 7 is less than 2q plus 3. So I'm going to move all my q's over. So I'm going to subtract 2q over. So those go away, leaving me with just a q minus 7 less than 3. I'm going to add 7 over to both sides. So I'm going to get q is less than 10. So put my graph in, line with a 10 in the middle. And because it's going to the left forever, it's pointing less than, and it's not equal to, I'm going to put an open circle going left, or a parentheses that's pointing to the left. And since it's going left, I know that my starting point all the way over there is a negative infinity, and it goes all the way up to 10. Infinity always gets a parentheses, and because this has a parentheses as well, so does my interval notation for 10. And so this is inequality notation, graphical representation, and interval notation for this question.